Colonel Funk, the 13th Airborne has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Taylor, the 35th Airborne has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Salvatore, good to see you again. The 23rd Mechanized has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Gonzalez, the 26th Mechanized has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Brown, been a long time. The 5th Armored has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Dersna, the 11th Armored has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Kim, nice to see you. The 3rd Tactical has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Smith, the 22nd Tactical has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Haney, the 8th Assault Battalion has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel Williams, the 14th Assault Battalion has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Colonel West, the 5th Assault Battalion has been assigned to the North Atlantic Theater of this conflict. Accordingly, you are authorized to log on to this strategic display at any time to view the progress of our war effort and to make deployment recommendations. Let's take a look at what we've got going this week. I see the Colonel has finally logged on. I hope your time away helped you get centered. I see the Colonel has finally logged on. I guess recess is over. It's time to start thinking about your next fight. I see the Colonel is finally logged on. I hope you enjoyed your beauty sleep. We've still got a war going on here in case you're interested. Well, the Colonel is finally logged on. I hope you enjoyed your vacation. Sorry we didn't write. We were busy fighting a war. Well, the Colonel is finally logged on. I hope you feel rested. We've been fighting a war while you've been snoozing. Well, the Colonel is finally logged on. I always heard there are no timeouts in war, but that rule doesn't seem to apply to you. Congratulations, Colonel. Good job, Colonel. Nice work, Colonel. That's what I like to see, Colonel. That was a nice piece of work, Colonel. That's how to do it, Colonel. Nice job out there, Colonel. Excellent work, Colonel. You really stomped those Ruskies. You crushed those Ruskies. You taught those Ruskies a lesson. You smashed those Ruskies up. You butchered those Ruskies. You smacked those Ruskies right in the nose. You gave those Euros a clobbering. You smacked those Euros all over the field. You gave those Euros the beating they deserved. You pulverized those Euros. You showed those Euros who's boss. You made wreckage of those Euros. You massacred that terrorist scum. You crushed those Green Brigade idiots. You exterminated those terrorist freaks. Well, Colonel, the Ruskies got the better of you that time. The Ruskies made a wreck of your battalion, Colonel. The Ruskies put the hurt on you, Colonel. You let those Ruskies find your soft spot, Colonel. Those Ruskies gave your battalion a beating, Colonel. Those Ruskies hammered you flat out there, Colonel. Those Euros really tore into your outfit, Colonel. Those Euros gave your battalion a pounding, Colonel. I see the Euros made a mess of your battalion, Colonel. Well, Colonel, the Euros sure did give you a clobbering. Looks like the Euros had your number today, Colonel. The Euros were all over you out there, Colonel. You let the Green Brigades beat you, Colonel. Seems to me you underestimated the Green Brigades, Colonel. You just gave the terrorists a feather for their caps, Colonel. We're updating your strategic display now. Here's how things shook out across the map. Here's how the week went for us. Here's how things went the past week. Here's how things panned out over the past week. Here are the mission results from the past week. Here's how the week shaped up for us. Here's how the week turned out. Here's how things turned out over the past week. Our progress last week was extraordinary. The past week, we were unstoppable. We ran over the enemy like a freight train last week. The last week gave us more victories than defeats. We did well over the last week. We made good progress last week. We dished it out last week. We made headway over the last week. The past week, we pretty much broke even. Last week was 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. We pretty much lost as much as we gained last week. We more or less held our ground over the last week. The last week, we pretty much treaded water. Last week didn't bring us a lot of good news. Things didn't go our way last week. We took some bad hits over the last week. We had a lot of losses over the last week. We had a lot of setbacks over the last week. As you can see, the past week was pretty much a debacle. The past week was one defeat after another. The past week was an embarrassment. The week started off bad and didn't get any better. It was a banner week for the Joint Strike Force. We won every battle we fought. The Russians were relentless this past week. They won every battle they fought. The Euros fought perfectly this past week. They won every battle they took part in. The Joint Strike Force disgraced itself over the past week. We lost every battle we fought. The Russians embarrassed themselves over the past week, losing every battle they fought. Good times. The Enforcers Corps lost every battle it fought over the past week. Gotta like that. We did well on the home front. We kicked butt on the home front. We didn't mess around on the home front. Things went our way on the home front. Things went well on the home front. We did badly on the home front. We took losses on the home front. We lost ground on the home front. We got knocked around on the home front. We got kicked around on the home front. We got results in Western Europe. We didn't mess around in Western Europe. We owned Western Europe. We took a beating in Western Europe. Western Europe wasn't kind to us. We faltered in Western Europe. Things went well in Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe went well for us. Eastern Europe went in our favor. Eastern Europe didn't go the way we hoped. Eastern Europe was a disappointment. Eastern Europe gave us trouble. We won battles for key uplink sites. We denied the enemy of key uplink clusters. We defeated the enemy at key uplink sites. We won the fight for uplinks. We dominated the fight for uplinks. We bested the enemy at key uplink sites. We lost battles for key uplink sites. We lost fights for key uplink clusters. We took a beating at key uplink sites. The enemy won battles for key uplink clusters. The enemy dominated when it came to uplinks. The enemy shut us out at key uplink sites. We inflicted heavy casualties. We slammed the enemy hard. We blasted the enemy in key sectors. We went toe-to-toe in key sectors and won. We smashed the enemy, and good. We won battles in key sectors. We took heavy casualties. The enemy drove us off in key sectors. The enemy outfought us in key sectors. We were defeated in key sectors. We took heavy losses. We lost in key sectors. We sabotaged one of their bases. They sabotaged one of our bases. We captured an air base. We lost an air base. We captured an army base. We lost an army base. We captured a port. We lost a port. We kept our air cover. We kept our troop support. We hung on to our port. The enemy is in striking distance of Washington. All remaining civilians have been ordered to evacuate. It's up to us to make sure they have a home to come back to. We established an airhead in Washington. We failed to establish a drop zone in Washington. The latest battle for Washington is concluded. We broke the enemy's attack on Washington. Victory in Washington. We've lost Washington. Washington is liberated. We took back Washington. Our efforts to liberate Washington have failed. Washington has changed hands. The battle for Moscow is about to begin. The roads are choked with civilians fleeing the city. They'll be glad they left. The Russians established a drop zone in Moscow. Fighting in Moscow has ended. Moscow has fallen. We've taken Moscow. Victory in Moscow. Our attack on Moscow has failed. We broke the enemy's attack on Moscow. We broke the attack on Moscow. We've lost Moscow. Moscow has changed hands. The battle for Paris is about to begin. Civilians are flooding the roads leading out of the city. A grim sight, but a necessary one. The Euros established a drop zone in Paris. Fighting in Paris has ended. Paris has fallen. We've taken Paris. Victory in Paris. Our assault on Paris has failed. We broke the enemy's attack on Paris. We broke the attack on Paris. We've lost Paris. Paris has changed hands. We took it from the Ruskies. We took it from the Euros. We kicked the Ruskies out. We drove the Russians out. We kicked the Euros out. We drove the Euros out. The Russians took it. The Russians have it now. The Russians control it now. The Euros took it. The Euros have it now. The Euros control it now. It's still in Russian hands. The Euros still have control of it. The enemy has seized every uplink cluster in the United States east of the Mississippi. The homelands of the European Federation are now entirely occupied by its sworn enemies. Now that's a nation that didn't last long, huh? Russia has lost control of Eastern Europe. Every uplink cluster has been seized. The Pentagon has finally authorized limited use of kinetic rod strikes. If you need massive firepower to turn a battle around, you're gonna have it. Apparently, the Euros don't like losing. If they're gonna start using high-energy laser satellites, we're not gonna think twice about using kinetic rod satellites as needed. Apparently, Russia doesn't like losing this war. If they're going to start using short-range, low-altitude missiles armed with fuel-air explosives, we're going to use kinetic rod satellites anytime we want. Not much else. That's about it. That was it. It's time to bring this war to an end, Colonel. Victory's within reach, Colonel. Time to put this war to bed. We've achieved a dominating position, Colonel. Let's wrap it up. The war is going well, Colonel. Let's keep that momentum. We're on a roll, Colonel. So let's keep rolling. America's taking care of business, Colonel. We're on the right track, Colonel. So let's stay on it. We need to keep the pressure on the enemy, Colonel. We've got a commanding lead, Colonel. So let's not blow it. The war is looking good, Colonel. Let's keep it that way. We can't let up now, Colonel. Gotta keep at 'em. Lots to do this week, Colonel. So let's get to it. We got plenty to do this week, Colonel. So let's get to work. Lots to accomplish this week, Colonel. We got our work cut out for us this week, Colonel. Won't have any trouble earning our pay this week, Colonel. No rest for the wicked, Colonel. We got the usual full plate, Colonel. So let's serve it up. No shortage of trouble to get ourselves into this week, Colonel. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work, Colonel. This war needs to do an about-face, Colonel. Any position except first place is unacceptable, Colonel. It's do or die time, Colonel. And dying is not an option. We've got to turn this war around, Colonel. It's time to change gears and come from behind, Colonel. Our strategic situation is untenable, Colonel. We gotta fix it. We're not down for the count yet, Colonel. Colonel, we need to come out swinging before they get us backed into a corner. I don't care how bleak things look. We're gonna finish this war with some dignity. We can rest when we're dead, Colonel. For now, we've still got some fight left in us. A warrior never accepts defeat, Colonel. I'm still in it to win this thing. Take a look around this strategic display. Then give me a deployment recommendation. Take a look at how battles are shaping up. Then give me a deployment recommendation. Take a look around the Atlantic Theater and give me your next deployment recommendation. Examine data on the battles we've got going and give me a deployment recommendation. Have a look at our operations in progress and give me a deployment recommendation. I want a recommendation for your next deployment. See where you think your battalion can do the most good. You will have to fight a battle eventually, Colonel. The reason we put all this data at your fingertips is so you can get a sense of the big picture, Colonel. Not so you can nap. Let's see some signs of intelligent life, Colonel. Let's see some hustle, Colonel. Review the strategic data and make a deployment recommendation. Here in the eastern United States. Here on the home front. Here on American soil. In Western Europe. In Eastern Europe. In the US of A. On the home front. In Western Europe. In Western Europe. In Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe. We're taking stabs at multiple uplink clusters. We're going all out against key uplink clusters. We're going to seize key uplink clusters. We want uplinks, and we're going to get them. We're going to take some uplinks and put them to good use. We're going to crash and grab multiple uplink sites. We're going toe-to-toe with the enemy in multiple sectors. We're taking a swing at multiple sectors. We're going to flatten the enemy like a wrecking ball. We're making power plays for key sectors. We're making moves in multiple sectors. We have major offensive operations underway. We're going to seize Ramstein Air Base. We're going to seize the Rovaniemi Air Base. We're going to seize Grissom Air Force Base. We're going after Maxwell Air Force Base. We need to recapture the USS Reagan offshore base. We need to capture the port of Copenhagen. We need to capture the port of Sevastopol. We're going to assault Fort Campbell Army Base. We're going to assault Lacedo Army Base. We're going to assault Fort Levski Army Base. We're sabotaging the air base here. We're mounting a sabotage raid on the air base here. We're going to sabotage the air base here. We're sabotaging the air base here. We're planning a sabotage raid on the army base here. We're going to sabotage the army base here. We're sabotaging the port here. We're going to launch a sabotage raid on the port here. We're going to sabotage the port here. The enemy's attacks are focused on uplink sites. We have uplink clusters under attack. Multiple uplink sites are under attack. We need to defend our uplink sites. The enemy's trying to steal our uplinks. The enemy's moving against our uplink sites. The enemy's trying to punch through in multiple sectors. The enemy's moving against us in multiple sectors. The enemy's launching attacks on multiple sectors. We have multiple sectors where we'll need to stand our ground. We're facing massive assaults in multiple sectors. The enemy's trying to gut us in multiple sectors. Ramstein Air Base is under attack. Rovaniemi Air Base is under attack. Grissom Air Force Base is under attack. They're going after Maxwell Air Force Base. They're attacking the USS Reagan offshore base. They're attacking the port of Copenhagen. They're attacking the port of Sevastopol. Fort Campbell Army Base is being attacked. Lacedo Army Base is being attacked. Fort Levski Army Base is being attacked. We can't let them sabotage it. We can't afford to lose its strategic capabilities. Even temporarily. We can't let them take it offline. The big show is the battle for Washington. Our main effort is the battle for Washington. Priority 1 is the battle for our nation's capital. The battle for Paris is the priority. The battle for Paris is the main event. All eyes are on Paris. The battle for Moscow is first priority. The battle for Moscow is the showstopper. The battle for Moscow is getting our full attention. We need to establish a drop zone. It's our only hope. We need to secure a drop zone where we can land an assault force capable of liberating it. Nothing can happen until we establish a drop zone for an assault force to liberate the city. The enemy's trying to establish a drop zone there. The enemy's trying to secure a drop zone for a heavy assault force. The enemy's trying to establish a drop zone to land a liberation force. We're going in. A crash and grab for the city's uplinks. The Russians are just now launching their attack. A crash and grab for the city's uplinks. The Euros are just launching their attack. Making a grab for the city's uplinks. Now it's all about the uplinks. Another crash and grab. Now it's yet another crash and grab for the city's uplinks. Now it's about the uplinks. Who can dominate the electromagnetic spectrum? Now everything depends on who can snatch uplinks and achieve full spectrum dominance. Now everything hinges on who can take and hold the city's uplinks. Last week the Russians drove us back. The Russians pushed us back last week. Last week the Russians forced us back. The Euros drove us back last week. The Euros pushed us back last week. Last week the Euros forced us back. Last week we drove the Russians back. We pushed the Russians back last week. We forced the Russians back last week. Last week we drove the Euros back. Last week we pushed the Euros back. We forced the Euros back last week. It's going to be bloody. Heavy casualties guaranteed. We'll be fighting street by street. It's gonna cost a lot of men. We'll be fighting house to house. A real meat grinder. It's gonna be nasty. Of course, city fighting always is. The fighting will be high density, close range. Hell on earth. We'll be slugging it out in the streets. No way around it. It's gonna be close combat, hand to hand. Downright medieval. It's gonna be heavy metal and full scale. A clash of the titans. Now it's time to feed the leftovers to the dog. Now it's time to finish them off. It's time to land the killing blow and take this city. This is our last stand. We break their assault, or we lose the city. It's quiet for the moment. No major operations launching this week. No major deployments are planned at this time. We have other fights to tend to. We don't have any operations planned for the present time. Our focus is elsewhere. The Russians are claiming victory, Colonel, and it seems our politicians are inclined to agree with them. The JSF's been ordered to demobilize. It would be dereliction of duty if I didn't pass that order down to you and your battalion. Speaking of duty, I am resigning my post as Commandant of the Joint Strike Force. So as long as Russian feet tread American soil, this soldier can accomplish more outside the military than in it. All the best, Colonel. You'll know where to find me if you're interested. The European Federation has claimed victory, Colonel. Our politicians say our fight is done. We've been ordered to demobilize, and I have no choice but to pass that command down to you and your battalion. I also have no choice but to resign my post as Commandant of the Joint Strike Force. Maybe there are some Americans who can stand by while our country is occupied by a foreign power, but I'm not one of them. I wish you the best, Colonel. You'll know where to find me if you're interested. Colonel, the United States of America has once again emerged the victor in a great worldwide conflict. History won't soon forget what we accomplished together, any more than you or I will forget the sacrifices of those who paid the ultimate price to defend our freedoms. It's the dawn of a new era, Colonel. Savor this victory, and everything you did to help earn it. Mitchell out.